Welcome to the Two Chicks with Hiking Sticks podcast. We cover all things natural, cultural, and historical in the world around us. Sit back and enjoy our sometimes snarky, often funny, and never dull podcast. Well, hello, everybody. This is Susan with Two Chicks with Hiking Sticks.
It's Monica.
Like how you give a little high five. It has been a day here.
Has it?
I'm trying to exercise more because I don't go outside when it's hot because it's hot. No. And I just don't do well with heat. I mean, if I heat up in the heat, and start sweating and, I turn red just because I'm really white, that heat stays in my body for a long time. I really can't cool down for the longest time.
Wow. That's not
good.
So
it's not just because I hate the heat. It's just because my body won't cool down for a long time. But anyhow.
That's weird. But you are weird.
But my point of saying that.
Oh, sorry.
Not that I'm weird. Whatever. Is that because now I'm trying to exercise inside, right? So I've been doing my elliptical inside. And I got up this morning and I did it. So I'm on a streak. I've been doing several days in a row. And I feel it. I remember once when I was at work, I went with some of my colleagues and we went to our gym at work. And she's like, yeah, let's just do the elliptical for 10 minutes. It'll warm us up and then we'll go. I'm like, okay. I literally could not walk after I got off that thing.
I'm sorry. The elliptical is just one thing that I cannot do. I'm 30 seconds in and I'm like, screw this. I'm going to go walk on the treadmill. Thank you very much.
Well, you have to be motivated. I turn on some Taylor Swift and I just go.
Well, you go, girl. That's better than me. You are. You know what I like? What I bought was one of those mini trampolines.
Oh, that's good too, because that's good for your lymphatic system.
That's what I heard. And that thing, I can stand there and I can do little hops and jumps and stuff. And I can do that for 10, 15 minutes at a time, working my way up to 30.
There you go.
Of course, I'll have to start over again because I haven't been home for 3 weeks. So, but yeah, I'll get back to it.
I have found I can't look at the clock because if I look at the clock, I'm like, oh, I'll just try to make it to 10. I'll just try to make it to 12. I have to not look at the clock.
Yep.
And that way I psychologically just don't know what time it is. I'm just going to keep going, just going to keep going.
Yeah.
But now I kind of know where it ends on what Taylor Swift song because I have it play an album. So I know what song it's going to end on. But anyhow.
All right. Yeah, I get it though.
My point of that is it's been a morning because I've already done my little workout on my elliptical.
But you go, girl.
I got to try. Okay, so now let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Oh, let me back up. I need to back up. Robert, I'm backing up from the camera. I'm back here. So today, as I feel like I'm miles away from everyone, today we're going to cover a place that probably many of you have not heard of, but is significant, particularly in the history of our country, the United States.
Oh,
and of course, significant in the state of Texas. The place we're going to cover is called Palo Alto Battlefield National Historic Park.
Okay.
Ever heard of it, Monica?
I've heard of, okay, now I take it back. I have heard the words Palo Alto, but usually associated with the college in San Antonio.
Well, Palo Alto means tall trees.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I know that. Well, so this is a National Historic Park, and it is located down around Brownsville. And if you know anything about Texas, and I'll throw up a map here, it is the southern tip of Texas.
Yes.
And some people wonder, what the heck happened there that we actually needed to preserve some place as a National Historic Park?
I'm asking that.
Well, much like when we covered River Raisin, which honored the Battle of 1812 over there, up in, I think it's in Michigan. Mm-hmm. This is a park that honors or is preserved for the Mexican-American War. The only place in the United States that has anything that's supporting and preserving where we had a battle of the Mexican-American War.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that.
Because it's down in Brownsville.
Yes. Well, that's
So kind of like when we talked about how, Petroglyph National Monument, which is outside of Albuquerque, gets about 350,000 visitors a year. This place, which is really kind of outside the city of Brownsville,
Mhm.
Texas, anybody who's ever been there, only gets about 175,000 people
That's
annually.
not shocking.
Yeah, it's not shocking because it is where it is, but it's kind of sad because so now this place was designated as a National Historic Park. Well, it was a site and then it became a park, and we've talked about the difference between that, right? So a site
Mhm.
usually recognizes a thing in the place,
Right.
and a park says, "Oh, there's more things around here that we probably should suck into this umbrella." So
Right.
it went from a site to a park. So
I learned that because of you, because of this podcast. Otherwise, I would have never known that.
I'm so glad that I can help educate my partner here. And hopefully all of y'all. But that's the difference between those two. So initially it was a site, and it became a National Historic Site in, let's see, 1978, which is significant because then it got expanded, and that's why it then became a National
Park.
Historic Park. Now, as I said, it's representing the U.S.-Mexican War, which most people don't think a lot about, but living here in Texas, it's really important because it is a part of this history. And when you go back in Texas history, we always talk about the Six Flags uh,
Six
amusement
Flags
park.
over Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, Six Flags over Texas, because there literally were Six Flags over Texas. I do find it interesting that we always kind of skip over all the indigenous folks that were here, but we just immediately go to Spain as being like the first flag.
Uh, yeah. Don't get me started. Keep going.
I know. Don't get me started either. But it is interesting because the movement of why Spain was even in Texas. So you almost have to kind of understand this history of Texas, right? Spain was in Texas because they didn't like the French were trying to take over more of the West. So they're like, well, we're just going to occupy Texas and we're going to have Texas. Well, that worked for some period of time until it didn't kind of work. And then the French came, kind of took up some land, and then it was kind of like Mexico came in and wanted to do its thing, and they were like, "No, we're not going to do Mexico. We're going to be the Republic of Texas." And after the Republic of Texas, we kind of came under the United States, but then we said, "No, you know what? We're going to go into the Civil War. We're going to be the Confederate States of America," and then we went back into the United States. So a lot of things happened, and what people remark on is this changing of hands happened over like a 300-year period. It was kind of relatively, when you think about time,
Short.
a short period of time
Yeah, that is a very short period of time in the big span of things. Yes.
that these countries all had a hold of this part we call Texas, right? So that's all kind of fine and wonderful, right? But the thing that I learned, and I have to say, this visitor center at Palo Alto Battlefield National Historic Park. The visitor center is so wonderful because it tells you of this history. And did you know that it was through this war that essentially Mexico ceded essentially the land that goes all the way to the west coast of California? So when you
Wow.
think about New Mexico, Arizona, California going all that way,
Yes.
that came as a result of the Mexican American War.
Huh. That is a lot of land.
Well, it is a lot of land, but when you think about when we were having this war, well, even when Spain was here, Spain was trying to occupy this space, and it was pretty desolate. Texas was
Mhm.
pretty desolate, right? So there weren't like a lot of people wanting to come to Texas. And then
Right.
Moses Austin says, "Hey, what if I bring some people down?" And then Moses Austin, who had a son named Stephen F. Austin, which is where obviously our capital of
Yes.
Texas is
Yes.
Austin, or
Even I
Stephen
knew
F.
that.
Austin. I knew that part. I
Knew
know
that
that part of
much.
history. But it was his dad that was like, "Hey, how about we make a deal and I bring in some settlers from America and we can, like, help you out here in Texas." Well, it was still rough terrain because, the Spanish were here, even they were doing missions and stuff. But eventually those missions were closing down because they were having to fight, oh my gosh, what? The indigenous folks that were here first.
Exactly.
So the indigenous folks were like making it hard for people, as they should, because it
That's
was
right.
their land.
That's right.
I have no issue with it, but anyhow, So, so Spain was trying. Spain eventually left. French. Then we did the Louisiana Purchase, which was like in, I want to say, 1803. And the French were like, yeah, the Louisiana Purchase means all the way to the Rio Grande. And everybody's like, no, that's not how that works. It doesn't go on because the Louisiana Purchase did not go into Texas, right?
Okay.
It didn't go to the Rio Grande River. It didn't cover all that swath of land. So
Right.
there was some dispute about that. So there's been like all this dispute that's been happening in Texas. And then the Mexican American War happened. And one thing that I found that was interesting in reading about this in the visitor center is how far we fought into Mexico. We basically had fought all the way into like where Mexico City is.
Are you kidding?
No,
That is way in there.
isn't
That is
it?
way interior Mexico.
And that we, as a, ultimately when everything got wrapped up and it's like, you give this, we give that, whatever, we seeded back out across the Rio Grande and then took the rest of everything all the way to the Pacific Ocean
Right.
to California.
Wow. That's, I would have never guessed that because, if you look at the map, that is deep interior Mexico.
It is, but that we had made it down there
That's
because
crazy.
because America had something to prove, I guess, at this point. Yeah, so because this happened.
Go no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because you have to think about, like, say the Battle of the Alamo, which everybody thinks was, it was in 1836, right? So it was after that San Jacinto happened, and that's where we captured Santa Ana, and that's where Texas won its independence.
Right.
So from 1836 to 1845, we were kind of this republic because we became a state in 1845.
Right.
Then we start this war in 1846. So America, the United States, could help Texas kind of in this battle with Mexico.
What I was going to say, and it's actually what my thinking before all this is like, for you to, for a person to want to try to live in what must have been one of the most inhospitable areas, because I mean, obviously we're developed now, and there's a lot of great cities. But when you actually leave the cities and you go out and you see our the countryside, especially when you start moving to the west over here, it is inhospitable land. I don't want to go on a tangent, but we're you look at Big Bend area, there is no way anybody could just survive for a few days there unless you've planned ahead. Nobody crossing a border into that area is planning on living there or trying to get across that desert, in that area. It's just not going to happen, and I'm not going to go into it, but that you've got to want to be there for the long term. And then you've got to figure out how the hell you're going to survive once you make that decision, which
Well,
the indigenous people were thriving because they knew what they were doing and they had been there for all that time and they figured out how it worked.
Yeah.
Because
we've covered many of the indigenous folks that survived and thrived in these areas.
Yeah.
But they had figured that out, right?
Right.
And maybe some were nomadic in that, they were following the herds of whatever were out there, whether it's, bison or whatever we had, right? But you're right that it's inhospitable today, and we even have modern conveniences.
Yes.
Now, granted, I mean, life was different back then, and in my head, as you were talking about that, I was thinking, well, I think about rattlesnakes today. I don't know why I thought about rattlesnakes, but rattlesnakes today. I mean, back then, they got bit by a rattlesnake, they were dead.
Yep.
There was no getting them to a hospital.
That's actually, yesterday I went on that hike at Petroglyph, and right away they tell you stay on the trail because there are rattlesnakes. They're still here. Spiders are, the tarantulas, the spiders, they're still here. And the scorpions.
I don't think that snakes read the signs of knowing where the trail is.
That's right. They don't read the sign and go, oh, I must stay away from this trail. It doesn't work that way. And it didn't work that way back then, You're right.
But
You got bitten by a rattlesnake. You were just going to die. That's just
right. And so you think about this Mexican American War, we're fighting over this land, which was just not great land, but it was land. And
right.
Mexico knew it was hard for them to populate, it was hard for them to defend. And so it was like, kind of became okay, fine, you can have it.
Right.
But the
Right.
thing that happens that a lot of people don't talk about is that when that all got signed and was done, and we took over this land that goes the border that we have with Mexico through New Mexico, Arizona, and California,
Mm-hmm.
no one thinks about the fact that as soon as that was done, all of a sudden these people who were on the other side of the line became American citizens,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because of where a line got drawn.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden you were Mexican and now you're American.
But
Boom.
and I guess because, in the news has been a lot about, birthright citizenship and stuff like that. I'm like, what about back then? It wasn't even that you were born there. It was just somebody drew a line and said, now you're on this side, so now you're American.
That's exactly right. Yep. Yep. And didn't we, there was one of the speakers when we went to the presentation on the Big Ben movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had, maybe you can link it here somewhere, but one of the people that was speaking, her family had been in that area, in that same, owning that same piece of land since it was Mexico, if I remember what she said correctly.
Yes.
So her family was one of those families that kind of became American by, what do you call
geography.
it? By geography, by fruition. No. There's a
word
for
fruition if they wanted it to, but
yeah, something like that. But anyway, yeah, that's exactly the perfect example. Her family has been there for generations and generations. And
there's another place. It's Chamizal National Monument, which is in El Paso, is another example of that exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That it depended on which way the river was flowing, and all of a sudden the river changed direction for whatever reason. That all of a sudden those people, because they're on the other side of the river, became American citizens.
Right,
but it's
because
like
the river was part of the border.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when it moved, all of a sudden those people became Americans, and they're
congratulations, like, you're an American now.
But I'm not sure that's what they wanted.
Right, exactly.
But it's that kind of thing when you think about how it's hard to imagine the United States, let's say, for instance, for all the things that we've covered, that, the forts and things that split the United States from east and west, mm-hmm. if those had stood and we had said, we're not pushing the indigenous folks out any further, that the indigenous folks would have lived happily side by side with us in the west and we would have been in the east? I don't know. Or what if, Mexico said, no, we're not signing the treaty there. We want to take more of that land. We're going to keep California, or that southern part of California, and maybe, the southern part of Arizona, or what we call Arizona. Like, what would that have looked like? What would North America have looked like if some of those decisions had just been different?
That's interesting. But, the other thing that I think that we tend to forget as Americans is really, we're not just Americans. This is North America, which encompasses Canadians and mm-hmm. Mexicans. And what do we call ourselves? United Statesians? Most people, I mean, it's true though, if you identify yourself as an American, because that's what we've been taught. But really, we are North Americans. We are North Americans, and we share this land of the Americas with Canada and Mexico. So I mean, it's kind of presumptuous of us, I think, a lot of times to say, oh, I'm an American because I'm from America. We're from North America.
We're North America.
So
we're not, again, we're United States. That's what we are. We're United States, as you said.
I got no other word
for
it.
To catch on.
We created a new word here today. Remember that at Two Chicks.
There you go.
United Statesians.
But it's this. That's why I think this place is so important. Like, if you're ever down in South Padre Island, because a lot of people mm-hmm. visit here and go down to South Padre Island, which is beautiful down there. This is a hop, skip, and a jump from South Padre Island. And I
Okay.
think it's really worth it for people to go because from wherever you're at in the United States, or particularly if you're in, you live in New Mexico or Arizona or California, to think about what would have happened if those decisions weren't made or the treaties weren't signed the way that they were signed to grant the land. What would have happened next? We don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about. You're right.
It is.
Well, you know who else heads down to Brownsville a lot is people that are birders,
Oh,
because
that's
that is a
true.
huge area for birders and people that follow the migration of the birds.
That's
Um,
true.
so yeah, birders, head out there, check it out.
So there you go.
There
Birders.
you
There you go.
go.
So, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's like a big deal, but and I think it was Polk. I think President Polk was the guy who said we needed to do this, and basically is the one who got us all the way to California, got us to the sea to shining sea.
Hmm.
Like, we thought the Louisiana Purchase was big. I think this was pretty big too.
This is pretty big, and it's something I really did not know.
Yeah,
Like, again,
yeah, history.
as a non-history person, but
But if you're interested in anything like having to do with Texas and the history of Texas and all the things that came before we became a state, and then what happened after we became a state with the Mexican-American War, uh, this is a fascinating place, and the visitor center is top notch. And maybe because it's a little bit newer, and they continue to acquire land because down in this area too. This is just a little aside because I thought this was interesting. So again, it's a history thing. So just bear with me, Monica.
I will.
So the Civil War, the United States Civil War, ended in 1865, April 1865, April 9th. It happens to be my birthday. Not in 1865, but April 9th. It ended in
Really old.
1865, right? It took a good while for everybody to get the word that, oh, by the way, Lee surrendered to Grant and the war is over, because the last battle actually occurred in Texas of the Civil
Ah,
War. Yeah. And the last battle happened it was around here in Brownsville.
wow.
Go figure.
Okay, who knew?
Well, again, I mean, I think most people who have any history in them at all, I don't know that you think about the Civil War going that far south in
No,
Texas, number
you
one.
don't. I know I didn't.
I never thought about the Civil War going through New Mexico when
Yeah,
we
me
talked about
neither.
Fort Union.
Yeah, me
Didn't
neither.
know that either. So there's some sites to go see down there and go visit, and you can get out and walk around and stuff. And I will say at Palo Alto Battlefield National Historic Park, there is a little hike out there. So you can kind of get out, walk along, and see kind of like how the troops were positioned and all.
Okay.
There's not a lot to see, but there
I
is a
was going
nice
to
little
ask.
walkway. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there was any kind of hiking or anything out there.
Yeah, there's a nice little walk, and they continue to improve upon it because they're still evaluating other areas. There's Fort Brown, I think, down there. They're looking at maybe acquiring that, and does it suit their purpose? Is it feasible?
Right.
But again, it's close to South Padre Island, so there's not like a lot of elevation that's out there because it's kind of getting closer down to sea level. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Well, that's good to know too. And besides, if you don't want to, if you don't want to walk there, you just visit and you want to walk someplace else, you can go walk on the beach.
yeah, you can go walk on the
Get
beach.
your steps in
Just
there.
go to the visitor center is all I ask you to do because you will find it fascinating the stuff that's in there because it is really well done.
It's been a long time since you've said fascinating.
I've
People
been
have
trying
been
to
wanting a drink, and finally we get it. Yay.
I've been trying to ease off fascinating and back off from the camera so you don't have to see me up close. Okay, well, I think that's about all I have to say about Palo Alto Battlefield National Historic Park.
Well, I think that was interesting. Is it on my list of places to go? If I head down to South Padre, I say yes. I would go visit it.
Seriously, if you go to South Padre, you have to go here because
Okay.
as a Texan, since I live here, I wasn't born here, but as I live here, it was like eye-opening to me. And I'm like, I knew a lot about Texas history, but I didn't know all of that.
Well, there you go. There you have it. All you Texas history fans, Susan's got something for you.
All right. Well, with that, hopefully you found that interesting. And if you did, Make sure you like and subscribe.
Yep.
Leave us a comment. Tell us
Leave us
where
a
else you
comment.
might want us to go look. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have car, will travel.
I like to do that. So be sure you and check out our other videos of other places that we've covered as well. We like to cover, whether it's a park, a battlefield, you pick it. We're pretty much covering a lot of different things here at Two Chicks. So be sure to stay tuned for what we're going to be covering next. But in the meantime, be sure that, as we said, like us and subscribe to us. And then we've got merch and buy us a coffee. You can donate to the fund so we can get out and see some more areas.
That's right.
All right. Anything else, Monica?
I got nothing.
You got me. All right.
I do. I do have a good friend right here on the camera who yes. Who's learned she's backed up.
You can't deny it.
I cannot deny it. That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, you guys take care out there and remember to
hike your own
hike. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and remember to follow our podcast wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to Two Chicks with Hiking Sticks on YouTube, where you also get to see our lovely faces, pictures, and videos of our journey.